Today I'd like to continue our journey through the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 16. As we look at this passage about Jesus, in terms of Jesus asking the apostles, who do they really think he is? At this point in the public ministry of Jesus, he has been preaching, he's been teaching, he's performed many miracles, but there's some confusion. Who is Jesus really? What is Jesus all about? Why did Jesus come? What is his mission? What is his purpose? So at this point, Simon Peter has acknowledged who Jesus is. He said that Jesus is the Messiah, the Son of the living God, in verse 16. And in verse 17, we get to see the reaction of Jesus to the statement of Peter. Jesus said to him in reply, "Blessed are you, Simon, son of Jonah, for flesh and blood has not revealed this to you, but my heavenly Father." So Jesus responds, he acknowledges what Simon has said. At this point, his name is Simon and not Peter, it's still Simon. He acknowledges that he is the son of Jonah, so we know about his dad. And he says that he is blessed. And where has this information come from that Peter is acknowledging? Well, Jesus gives us an answer to that. He says, "Flesh and blood has not revealed this to you." So this isn't something that has come from, your human experience. Flesh and blood is a Semitic expression for human beings, but particularly with the emphasis of human beings in their weakness. So yes, flesh and blood, you're a human being, but it kind of connotes that a lot of human beings have weaknesses. They find things challenging. Kind of similar to the expression that we would use when we say, "Oh, well, I'm a human being. I'm going to make mistakes. I'm going to do things wrong." And flesh and blood, very similar to that. So flesh and blood, it hasn't come from your flesh and blood. It's come from my heavenly Father. So Jesus is acknowledging that this statement from Peter about Jesus being the Messiah, the Son of the living God, is something where Simon was inspired by God. Very interesting when you unpack it a little bit. Which of our statements are authentically from our humanity? And when do we sometimes echo something, state something, speak about something that comes from God, not from our humanity, not from our human reasoning or human way of thinking, but in some way, God is inspiring us. God is helping us. God is leading us on this journey. So this is something where we take a step back. We acknowledge, well, wait a minute. Where is this feeling that I have? Where is this belief that I have actually coming from? Is it coming from my own sort of rational process, way of thinking? Or is it something that is coming from another source, a transcendent source, coming from the divine? This is very similar to what Paul tells us in Galatians chapter 1, verses 15 and 16. Paul writes, "But when God, who from my mother's womb had set me apart and called me through his grace, was pleased to reveal his Son to me, so that I might proclaim him to the Gentiles. I did not immediately consult flesh and blood. Paul is acknowledging something very profound here as well. God has a special relationship with us. As Paul states, God set me apart from my mother's womb. So right from the very beginnings of my life, my moment of conception, there in the womb of my mother, God had a plan for me. God was setting me apart. So in a similar way, God has a plan here for Simon. God is setting Simon apart, saying, Simon, you're going to have a special role. God inspires him, God helps him, God leads him. God assists him in making this statement, this confession of belief that Jesus is the Messiah, that he is the Son of the living God. A very profound and moving statement of faith that Simon makes. Paul says, God has called me through grace. So when we are called to a certain role in the church, in the community, in our families, when we're called to that role, is a calling that comes from God's grace. We might sometimes think, well, here I am, I responded to God's call, I followed what God wanted me to do, which is great. We have our human freedom, certainly. There's also another element here that Paul is pointing out, that certainly Simon is experiencing in this moment. And that is the call that comes to us from God's grace. You might think, I'm doing this on my own. Of course, we have our own free will to do it or not to do it. But we are assisted in our response by grace from God. God loving us, God caring us, God pouring his life out on us. So that moment, that special moment where Jesus is very vulnerable, obviously, because he's saying, who do you say that I am? People have said that I might be Elijah, John the Baptist, Jeremiah. What about you? Who do you say that I am? In that special moment where Simon has to make a statement, or the other apostles who were there could have made a statement. In that special moment, there is this grace that Simon experiences that moves him. It moves him beyond his flesh and blood, beyond his human feelings. It moves him to make this statement. Sometimes it's kind of amazing with us, right? That, a statement comes out and we say, hey, where did that come from? I didn't plan it out. I didn't think I was going to say that. And sometimes we shock even ourselves. I know I've had that experience in teaching, that experience in talking with people. Sometimes these statements come out and I'm like, gee, where did that come from? Who said that? Oh, that was me. I said it. And Simon has this type of moment where he's making this very profound statement about Jesus. And you wonder, as you think about it, was Simon himself surprised that he made this statement? Because Jesus is saying, This is something that comes from the Father.